Well, good afternoon, everybody. How are you all? Oh, what we've got here. Yes, it's Wednesday afternoon, isn't it? Time for OET speaking. Yes, and I'm Judy. I'm one of the expert tutors at at E2 language and have a lot of experience, definitely with speaking. I'm not so good at, there we are. Yes, I am. just forgot. Hi, everybody on who's watching on YouTube. It's wonderful to have you with us. Don't forget, however, all our activities, all the discussions we're going to have in our chat box, unfortunately, we're not capable of having it on the E2 language site as well as on YouTube. So guys on YouTube, you've all got plenty of time to join as we talk E2 language for the free package. You don't have to pay anything, and I will be available because this is a free tutorial for people who are members of E2 language, but for people who are just like to have a bit of a look and see what's going on. So please, there's links I know given to you on the YouTube that you can use to go straight to E2 language and just have a look at what's available at our school, I should say. Well, look, just a few options as far as preparing for your exam. The best, of course, is the one-to-one tutorial, but it's not just a tutorial. There's a method to it. Before you take your tutorial, we have a writing assessment that goes with each tutorial. You do the writing assessment, that gets marked, corrected and appraised. Then in the tutorial, we discuss it. We discuss your weaknesses, your strengths, how to improve, and many issues. Another great thing that we do in tutorials is have speaking practice. You can have as many speaking tasks as you want. Well, within the 45 minutes, we also discuss listening and reading, and you'd get feedback on your speaking there and then. Of course, the mini mock test, I think, I'm sure, I am convinced, if everybody that's preparing for the OET does the mini mock test and takes heed, understands, listens, reads the comments that get made about your speaking, you will have absolutely no issues with speaking. It can be a wake-up call. Oh dear, I need more practice in speaking. Or I don't really know what the criteria are to be able to do it successfully. I can speak English, but that's not enough, guys and gals. No, you need to do the speaking task as the OET examiners want you to. The same with your writing, of course, and the listening and the speaking. So it's a great place to practice. Any issues with pronunciation? We've got our E2 school, which is a very great place to learn English from all levels, but there's the pronunciation, there's the speaking lab course. I'll put in a link afterwards, which I think I forgot to do now. Hang on a second. While I'm thinking about it, I'll just quickly copy paste all my links, which I will share with you afterwards. So let me just go back to our screen share. There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. A few technical issues today, but that sort of happens even to the best of us. Uzma, lovely to have you. Mary A, good afternoon. Crystal, hello. Thessaloniki, hi to you. Good afternoon. There we go. I hope to meet some of you. I've had a lot of students today. Hopefully they're all asleep. They were all from America, one after the other. So it was their evening. But I think at this stage, they should be tucked up, fast asleep. Look, someone's just written, Charan's just written, saying that during speaking, addressing patients is different based on age. Of course, is it better to use hello or for elderly and hey for younger patients? Can you share opinion? I wouldn't ever go to hey, no. you know, I think it's too informal. Hello to younger patients, and probably something like good morning, good afternoon to the elder patients. Okay, I think not hey, that's far too informal. For the situation, you know, you are a doctor or a nurse, you know, they do look after you, look up to you. There is a little bit of an issue of, let's say, respect. And, you know, you need to be friendly, you need to be communicative with them, but not to that level. So, hello, good morning, good afternoon, etc. Guys, during the class today, we're going to, or you're going to do some recording. It's the only way without a partner to practice. Hi, Adrian. Hi, Carolina. Hi, Hanny. Hi, Mega. Wow, suddenly all sorts of people have come online. Yes. So get your recording. You can use a recording app. I've got one. I can't remember what it's called. Something recording app. But you can also use just the selfie section and use a video, and you'll get your sound too. So if you've got a recording app, perfect. Oh, Florence, hi, and Chita, hi to you today too. So let's have a quick overview of the speaking, what it's all about. I mean, a lot of you probably know, I'm sure a lot of you should know, but newcomers, they don't really sometimes understand what it's all about. And especially if you've come from another exam like IELTS or TOEFL or PTA, for example, it's very, very different. We've got that 5-minute warm up. What happens in those 5 minutes? So the interlocutor who is going to have the conversation with you will check your identity and your profession. Then they will have a short warm up conversation with you, which isn't assess. It's just to get used to each other's voices, basically, break the ice. Then there are 2 role plays. So a role play, you are talking to your interlocutor who is playing the role of the patient. So you receive a card with information about the role play related to your profession. 3 minutes you have to prepare for that. You can write on it, you can underline, you can make notes, and then straight away the role play starts. We'll talk about those sections again in a second. So to get started, there's that warm-up conversation with the interlocutor. She's going to greet you, or they will greet you. They will check your name and your ID. We talked about that. Then they'll ask you some questions, as I said, just to break the ice, such as things like, where are you from? How many years have you been a doctor? Or why did you choose to become a nurse? What do you think makes a good doctor or nurse or whatever profession you are? There's a variety of other things, but you know, some pretty standard things. And then that interlocutor plays the part of the patient or a relative of a patient. They don't mark you. I know in some other exams, the interlocutor actually marks you. No, everything is recorded and then sent to the assessment team in Melbourne. Okay, well, they're electronically sent today. So let's talk about how we use, let's say, think about the names that we want to use, the name of the patient. So one of the, probably the most natural one is, of course, to use the name of the interlocutor once they've introduced themselves. And you can ask them, or you ask the interlocutor what name they would like you to use. That's before you start the role play. Or you choose a name that you like, or it's easy for you to use for the patient. Tell the interlocutor that, and they definitely respond to it. But you can also have a conversation such as, hi, this is the interlocutor speaking. My name is Marla. And you say, hi, do I use your name as the patient's name? Yes, that's fine. So in your role play, you will say, so Marla, I understand you've been experiencing some back pain. Okay, it's nice, and it's one thing I don't see enough of. Use the name of your patient during the conversation. I mean, firstly, greet them, but even during the conversation, when you ask them questions, just pop the name in. It makes that much better feeling. and that's really important in your, the way you treat your patient. So today, our role play card is for nurses, but everybody do not run away. It's just that we take it in turns, don't we? 1 week doctors, 1 week nurses. So, but it's just a different situation. The system is the same in a way. So here we're in the accident and emergency. Now, as soon as you pick up your role play card, it's very important to understand what is going on. And I find a lot of people who don't know what's going on tend to hesitate, get it wrong, get it mixed up, repeat themselves. There's lots of things. So don't forget also in your warm-up time, if there's something in your role play card you don't understand, please ask the interlocutor. Okay, not just the name, but anything in there. So we ask ourselves, and we underline that if you've got a card, where is the consultation taking place? Now that plays a role in, let's say, formality, the whole thing. In a hospital environment, things are a lot more formal perhaps than would be at a patient's home or perhaps in a private clinic. Well, it just depends. So that's one of the things. Where is that happening? Who is the nurse speaking with? Who is your patient? Or are you speaking to a relative of a patient? If you've got a child, for example. How old is the patient? Okay, we can be less formal, but still not hey. Is the diagnosis of the patient established? What emotions can you feel in the scenario? And is there anything else that you notice? Now, getting the right analysis and understanding your role play card from the beginning is of the utmost importance. So 3 minutes, that's your time. I mean, you don't need all that. Normally, you'd probably spend more time even asking the interlocutor something or working on the card. But 3 minutes to share with me what your answers. I'll answer any questions once we've finished. So you can concentrate. Tension. Never. Good. Good. Okay. Yes, sir. I love your yes. Interesting, Mother. I'll answer that in a second, my darling. Thanks, Florence. All right, yep. Let's see. Thanks everybody on YouTube. Beautiful. Now, let's have a look at the answers. I mean, sometimes it doesn't really work, you know, is the diagnosis established? I think what's important in that one is, do you understand what's going on? I think, but it's just one way of asking a question. So the consultation is taking place, yes, in the accident and emergency. So even in that department, you're going to feel, you know, tension. You know, it's not a relaxed sort of atmosphere, is it? The nurse is speaking with a patient. Who is that patient? She's a 26-year-old woman. Okay, well, it could be a man if your interlocutor's a man in the end. They usually don't have women or men on them. Is the diagnosis established? Well, she has diabetes, and to make it even worse, she has that cut on her toe. Now, her emotions, anxiety, fear of amputation, yes. Anything else you noticed? Well, the fact that she did the right thing. So you need to sort of praise her in a way, in that sort of thing. So let me just quickly answer a few questions. I don't want to, while people are thinking, I don't want to, you know, drive everybody crazy. So Cheetah says, as we have 2 role plays, should I introduce twice myself and my position, even the second time? Definitely, Cheetah, definitely you need to, because don't forget, the position might be different. You're definitely going to be in a different sort of place, and just take them 2 completely separate events. Yeah, good question though, very good question. Somebody else asked me something else, which I just need to find. So scenario, Sharon, if a patient comes for follow-up after discharge, can we start this? Hello, Mrs. Brown, how are you doing today? Definitely. We will talk about that in a few seconds, actually. Now, our next job is to identify the function words, which are the words that are going to give us our instructions of what to do during the role play. Oh, they shouldn't be coming up. They've come up today. Oh, that's not very clever. So, well, I don't need you to find them. They're there. Find out, reassure, explain, and empathize. Okay, that's a funny word. Sometimes it's emphasize, but this is empathize. So show empathy. Yes, interesting. Don't forget, you will often find other verbs within the bullet point, or in this case, the number point. So don't always think they are the first words there. They are sometimes hidden here. All right, which is very important. So what are they? We've got find out, reassure, explain, empathize. Okay, now, before we start our practice, now's the time we need to have our discussion about how are we going to address this patient? How are we going to introduce ourselves in this environment? Okay, what I want to emphasize with everybody is that each time, each environment needs a different beginning. Don't have a standard phrase and say it all the time, as we were saying before the thing. So, I don't have a patient card, Rajashi. I don't have a patient card. Yes. So, guys, think about it. If you were that nurse, or even the doctor, think about if you're a doctor in accident emergency, how would you and what would you say when you approach this patient? Just a quick chat in the chat box, because I can't hear you, unfortunately. How would you talk to her? What would you say? How would you introduce yourself? Anybody got any suggestions? Do we know her name? So, yes, I'm doctor. How can I help you? Okay, yes. Good afternoon. I'm Tessie, one of the registered nurses here, working at Good. Again, how can I help you? Yeah, something like that. What brings you here today? Yes. Thank you for coming to see me today. What brought you to emergency? Yes. That's another good one. What what problems are you having? What is it? Yeah. Oh, could you tell me your full name? That's another one, Thessaly. Yes, in a case like this, you know, it's not a regular patient. You need to check their name. May I have your name, please? Or could you tell me your full name, please? How can I help you? I'm Dr. How can, again, standard things. Yeah, we don't have any history. Can we ask the patient's name? Yes, definitely. In accident emergency, you need to check. You might have some paperwork. What brought you here today? Can I have your name, please? Yes, my name is, say, Judy Hook. And what brought you today? What brought you here today? Or what seems to be the trouble? Or what's your problem? Brilliant, everybody. Now, that doesn't always work. You know, if you're seeing a patient of yours in your surgery or someone who's come for a follow-up or come, you know, an organized thing, you're probably going to know their name. Or if you're visiting them, you can check their name. Beautiful. I just want you to be aware not to have a standard, bog standard beginning and to use it on both things. Adjust it to the situation. And as they say to you, be natural. What would you naturally have said in that situation? You know, if you were in that situation. So that's what they're looking for, you know, that initial contact to be, how may I address you? Can I use, can you use your name? Yes, definitely you would use, and you would have spoken about that with the interlocutor beforehand. Okay, but in this situation, you don't know the patient, so you need to ask and check their name. You know, they might have some report, a written report might have been done, but now you've come to see them, or you're going to write down the report, and then you need all her details, as someone said, your name of address, your name, your date of birth, whatever the situation is. Keep it natural and, yeah, different from each time. Okay, so the stories come. Find out about the injury. She's going to tell you that, you know, about the, she's cut the toe, she's got the plaster, it's very red and swollen. Okay, okay, now, and that she's really anxious because it looks infected and doesn't know what's been going on. And she's been reading, of course, on the internet about the high rates of amputation. She's in panic mode. Now, here's your first chance, or your second chance really, to really reassure her that she did the right thing. That's always important for diabetics to seek medical help immediately if they injure themselves. So very, very important point. So we've got 30 seconds for you guys to plan it, and then 30 seconds using your phone or even your computer, whatever you've got there, to record yourselves. Yes. So it's your job now. Beautiful. Now record yourselves, guys, and then you can compare it. Okay, everybody, how did it go? All right, so let's listen to, oh, of course, I always forget to share this. Some lovely answers there, guys, on YouTube. Very impressed. So let's listen to our patient here. Now,
okay, Jane, you've done the right thing coming here to see me today. You've cleaned the wound, you've checked the wound, and you can see that it's obviously become a little bit aggressive. So as a diabetic of many years, you'll know that looking for medical advice as soon as possible is the right thing to do, and well done for doing that. Now, let's have a proper look and see what we can see.
Okay, do you see the tone? Quite subdued how he speaks. She's, you know, quite upset, but he's kept the tone down. You've done the right thing coming here to see me today. That's it. Looking for medical advice as soon as possible is the right thing to do. So two different ways of talking about the right thing to do. Important, isn't it? Now, let's have a look. We've come through, we've explained the likely treatment, what's going to happen, because she said, oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to my foot? You know, and how she can protect her. What we need to do now is, she's concerned. She's worried that, you know, she's going to have the toe taken off or whatever. But it's your chance now to show your empathy with her about her concerns and warn her that amputation may only be necessary if the cut does not heal. So 30 seconds, 30 seconds to show, you know, to plan it. All right, now record yourselves. Brilliant, everybody. How did you go? All right, showing empathy, as you know, is so important in OET speaking. And it's not only from the words you say, also, it's how you say it. So there's lots of ways to show empathy, but let's listen to the example and compare it with your own.
I think it's quite understandable for anyone who lives with diabetes to have these kind of concerns. And yes, of course, there are extreme cases where it may be possible or it may be required that amputation is needed, but it's a very extreme solution to the problem, and we will only go down that path if there's any question of the wound not healing, but it's very much early days yet.
Okay. There's plenty of ways to, you know, to understand that sort of thing. I think it's quite understandable, you see. So he's showing the empathy that he feels the same, that, yeah, I can understand how you feel. There's plenty of ways, we're about to talk about some. We will only go down that path if there's any question of the wound not healing. But it's very early days yet. So the intonation and the words he say show that empathy towards that patient. Okay, I mean, you can use things like, you know, don't worry, and all that sort of stuff too. Not too much, yes. So let's have a look at scoring and the criteria that the OET is based on, your speaking. I think a lot of people, especially, you know, people just taking the mini mock test, haven't realized how many areas it covers. So we've got the linguistic criteria, which is all about your language. Now, there's 4 of them. They're worth 6 marks each. They're quite important. We've got the intelligibility, the fluency, the appropriateness, and the resources of grammar and expression. And in fact, I was just listening earlier, there was quite an interesting live program. I'm not sure if they're recorded on the OET website about those things. Yeah, one of their classes. And then we've got the clinical communication criteria. What are they? So we talked about building that relationship. There's 5 of them. I know they're only worth 3 marks. However, these interact with your linguistic criteria, your fluency, your appropriateness, and so they're sort of, one reacts with the other in a way. So if you can get the clinical communication criteria, everything else flows and it's more appropriate. So build that relationship with your patient. Understand and incorporate the patient's perspective. Ask them after you've proposed something, how do you feel about that? Would that work for you? Do you understand? If you've told them something, explain something. You need to provide a structure, so you've got the card. Stick to what's on the card. Work through it step by step. It's organized. You don't want to be all over the place. The patient doesn't know what's going on. Gather information, so you need to ask the appropriate questions from your patient, and also give them information. And once you've given information, ask them if they've understood. Okay, I didn't go back on that, just quickly pop back to our work there. So we'll go down that path. If there's any question of the wound not healing, it's very early days yet. Do you understand that? You understand? Something like that, just basic. Does that make sense? So, these are the little things you need to say after you've given an explanation, as in this case. Just look at the one before. What did we say there? Oh yes. Well, that's because that's actually included in it. But when you propose something, ask them. How do you feel about that? Does that sound right? Does that sound good? Could you deal with that? Etc. etc. It's very important after you've spoken and said something to get a reaction from your patient. Let them speak. Not like me now. Yes. So our clinical communication criteria. We're going to talk about giving information today. Here we've got a situation where we need to explain something negative. So we need to engage with the patient. Don't be vague, don't be sort of all over the place, but don't be too technical for the patient. It's not going to help. You've got to be speaking in everyday language. Yes. Express genuine empathy. Patients are people, they're not numbers. Okay, especially when we've got something negative. Try the alternatives to I understand. Yes, that's perfectly understandable. Nice one. Yours is a common reaction. Yes, making it the same as, as other people might feel. Yes, that is a common reaction, It is understandable just to have a variety of phrases. Be honest, not blunt. Now, compare these two. If you don't quit smoking, I suppose, you're going to die. Okay, think with, I think we need to address your nicotine addiction, or your cigarette addiction, whatever, and explore ways of helping you give up cigarettes. Okay, you're probably wanting to say the top one, but you need to sort of address it in a little bit of a different sort of way. Now, it's just a couple of questions there. Just some people have put stuff. Oh, what they were saying. So Leon just said to me, which is interesting, what is the best way to make use of background notes? That note at the beginning. So very interesting. Now, I've often come across problems with that. That background information is basically for you, the doctor or the nurse or the medical professional, to give you, as it says, background information about your patient. And so when you're preparing, you can understand what's going on. However, if a patient walks into your practice and you say to them, "Oh, good morning, and how can I help you?" There is no way that you're going to know that background information. So don't mention it. Now, there are sometimes situations where you've got some background information because perhaps someone's rung in and made an appointment and said something, or it's a follow-up appointment, or a patient's come out of hospital and the doctor's been informed, their GP, that information. You've got to judge it, but more often than not, that information isn't, it's entirely up for, it's for your information only and not to be mentioned. That's a very good question and something I hear very often. It's causing issue. So should we make some notes? Okay. Shall we kind of summarize it? No, you don't summarize it. You wait for the patient to say it, to explain it. Nirali, no, do not try to answer the task in any order. Keep to the order that is on the card. Don't forget your interlocutor also has a role play, and their words, their phrases are matched up with yours. So if you start going all over the place, it's not going to work. Think about being in the theatre, you know, it's a role play. And Carolina asking more information about diabetes. If it's not on the card, I wouldn't avoid it really. I mean, you can pop in a question here and there, but don't go over the top because you're losing time and then you probably won't, well, although you're not obliged to finish the card, but they don't like if you've spent a lot of time talking about something that's not on the card rather than working what is on the card. But you can pop in a little bit of question if you want, if it's relative. Okay, if it's, you know, your reaction is pretty normal. A very good one, Mohammed. Very good one. Just another one. All the areas must be covered in a role play. Well, that's very interesting. So Maria says about, are all the different criteria covered in each role play? Well, they are not. Okay. However, that's why we've got 2 role plays. So within the 2, all things will be covered. But things like signposting, she's saying it's not always possible. Yeah, but try and signpost if you can. Definitely, you know, and they will listen to you holistically, so don't worry. Explain the findings or the diagnosis. If the first task is explain the findings or diagnosis, should I also forget about the note and ask the patient? Yes, definitely, Miquad, definitely. Again, your introduction. So how can I help you today? But if you can understand that it's a follow-on, that the patient has come to get the results of tests or x-rays or scans, then you can say, good morning, Judy. Thank you for coming in today. Now, I've got the results of your tests, and it's a time we've got a chance today to discuss and for me to explain to you what I've found. So, Miquad, if that's the situation, definitely you wouldn't need to ask them how I can help. And that's what I was saying to do. You've got to understand, is it a follow-up appointment or is it just an appointment that has no background? Okay, so again, Jaran says, give me some phrases for signposting. Well, it depends what is on your card. Okay, that's it. So signpost, use the card and work from that. So tell me about your whatever, your diabetes, and how you're dealing with it. So whatever's there, or let's talk about your diabetes. Now, let's move on to your wound, whatever it is. You don't marry? No, you can use the interlocutor's name. You don't need to ask. In a situation like A&E, yes, it would be advisable to ask their name. Okay, so, oh, in a follow-up patient, also, good morning, Judy. Thank you for coming to visit me, coming to see me today. And, you know, straight away, I've got the results, I've got your some results from your specialist, and let's talk about how we can work with the situation or with the results that I've got. This very merit thing, just think normal, natural. Unfortunately, it's very difficult without situations. But here we've got some different scenaria, I suppose we have to say plural. We've got to consider appropriate response. So this is a response. Okay, so we need to consider the response and then record yourself. So let's have a go with that first one. No, whoopsie, jumped ahead. Let's try it once again. Here we go. Here is our situation. What would you say? How would you respond to that? 30 seconds to record, everybody. Good. Let's try number 2. Get it open. There we go. Another one. A couple of seconds to quickly read it. Okay, now 30 seconds. Good, everybody. Brilliant. Third one. Dramatic, can you imagine? And so, one. Well done, everybody. And then our last one. Europa. There we go. Well done, everybody. Just quickly answering a few questions. Definitely about the, you know, after things, follow up for sure. The patient would know you. So yeah, but it's for you to decide really. Now, Theo said, if I miss out a task, yes, if you miss out a task, as soon as you realize, go back and try and put it together in the, make it fit back into the conversation. Well worth it. Now, can you use dear? Carolina, I wouldn't use dear, even if it's an old lady. Not really. It's not a nice one. And don't call them patients either. Charan says, may I have your name? How can I help? Both are fine. It depends in the outpatients. I think would be, may I have your name first? And then how can I help you, Charan? Now we've got the recordings. You've all had a go. So let's see the responses. Oh, that was very good. Mouse here.
To be honest, having a heart attack at your age is an unusual thing, but I think you are aware that there are some issues that I think together we'll be able to address, including issues related to your weight, following a healthy diet and pursuing a healthier lifestyle, reducing your levels of stress and improving your diet is going to have a massive impact, and we'll make sure that this doesn't happen again. Okay?
So this, that you see at the end, he explained all that, quite, you know, quite a lot of detail there, but that, okay, but you can also ask them, how do you feel about that? Do you think you can manage that? Do you think that would work for you? All that sort of stuff, but a lot of detail, to be honest. Yes, it's an unusual thing. Okay, so even though it's bad news, is making the patient a bit responsible. Well, they are, aren't they? That's the next one.
I completely understand your distress, and I unfortunately see this happen several times in any given year. Johnny's going to be in some amount of discomfort at the moment because having his stomach pumped isn't going to make him feel great, but the doctors and nurses with him are extremely caring. They will look after him to the best of their ability. And apart from the initial unpleasantness of the stomach pump, I think Johnny's going to be absolutely fine.
All right. And again, you know, again, you can add things. So just be patient. If you've got any questions, you got any worries about that, always get the patient's perspective, how they feel, especially when you've given them an explanation. Okay.
I'm going to have to be 100% honest with you. Your grandmother is really not in a very good state of health. She has a number of problems at the moment, one of which I'm afraid there is nothing we can do about. Our main objective at the moment really is to keep her comfortable, to keep her in a condition that will enable you to talk with her and be with her and make sure that your time left with her is of the highest possible quality.
Okay, so from the negative, turning it to the positive. Okay, what else can you do?
You see, the problem that we're facing is the untreated gastro. When you're traveling around South America, perhaps you're not in a position to be seen by a doctor, but because it was left untreated, there is a serious problem in your stomach lining, and there is the chance that without surgery that the negative impact could include, for example, the need to have a colostomy bag or something like that for the rest of your life. So we need to intervene, and we need to intervene with surgery as soon as possible.
Okay, so lots of details there. Don't worry, all those details, well, some of them, the core of those details will be on your card each time. So those hints about, for example, in the colostomy bag and all the other things, it will be on the card. You don't have to make it up from the top of your head. Don't worry. Okay, but you understand, Colin had that tone, difficult news, but showing empathy, more from the tone than what he says. But, you know, you've got to be there, and then turning the negative to as positive as possible, finding a positive thing in it. Important. Now, let's have a quick look at the general strategies. What do we need to do to be successful? Well, we need to treat the role play as if you were with a real patient, hence the use of their name. We don't memorize long answers. They are not going to work. You can have a couple of phrases that you find comfortable, whether you're showing empathy or, you know, asking if they've understood, or asking if they need any feedback. Have a few of those ready. Try and have a variety so you don't keep using the same one. Take a deep breath and smile. Make eye contact before you start speaking. Oh, yes. And that's why if you've got the card, hold it up. You've written on it, you've got your notes. Don't put it down. Hold it up in front of you when you're speaking and doing the role play. Much better. Now, the next lot before you start. Now, this is the preparation. You underline the keywords or phrases on the card. You can make brief notes for each point on the card. Pick out something, whatever you want. Then don't forget to ask if you need the interlocutor to clarify anything on the role play which is unclear, whether it's the meaning of vocabulary, pronunciation, context, and things that you don't understand. If you haven't got a good understanding of what's going on, you're going to hesitate, you're going to get ums and ahs, you're going to make a mess of everything. So don't be embarrassed. The interlocutor is there to help you. Okay, so on your side, read the role play carefully, the role play card carefully. As I said, avoid misunderstanding or missing out on any topics, definitely. Your ability to communicate effectively with patients in English is being assessed, not your medical knowledge. Pay attention to the type of information you need and adjust your words, your voice accordingly, showing empathy, showing understanding or asking for understanding, being assertive. Okay, you need to change not only what you say, but how you say it. Then, while speaking, use varied vocabulary appropriate to the needs of the patient. Don't make it too complicated, and the context. You've got the card. You can use the vocabulary that's on the card. You don't need to paraphrase it all. However, try and put it in a little bit of a different way so it doesn't look as though you're reading from the card. Not difficult, just twist it around a little bit. Show you can communicate in a variety of ways. Speak audibly, clearly, and confidently. Definitely. Pronounce your words clearly and correctly. That's why any word you don't know how to pronounce, ask the interlocutor before. Vary your intonation for emphasis, for showing different emotions, and establish a relationship with the patient before you ask for relevant information. Yes, good morning, how are you? All those things we've been talking about. Make sure that it's appropriate to the situation though. Okay, don't just have the standard one you use every time. We don't speak like that. And finally, remember, you don't have to complete all the tasks. However, don't go off the topic and for that reason, not complete all the tasks. I did see somebody in on YouTube saying, what happens if we finish early? Well, look, if you finished early, there's probably a reason that you haven't spoken, haven't let your patient speak enough. You haven't asked them the questions you should have, that you haven't taken their perspective into consideration. You haven't asked them if they've understood. In fact, it's a patient-centered situation. Your patient is the center of the conversation. All right. So if you finish quickly, it's because you haven't done all that, or you've skipped some of the tasks. Okay. So there's quite a few reasons why you haven't finished. If you do finish, then it's your chance to make a short recap, pick out a couple of points which are important, repeat them, and then ask the patient or whoever you're speaking to if they have any other issues or questions. Make choices. Consider who you're speaking to and how that affects your language choices. Definitely. Balance, as I said, speaking and listening. Your patient should be 40% of the time, I would say, 30, 40, even 50% of the time. Don't worry. You know, you just need to speak when it's necessary and, you know, use those things. But the patient has to be taken into consideration. And we need to respond to what that patient says or asks you. Now, here are a few things. I'm just going to also share a few little things from our very important blog on the OET. We've got speaking tips, how to pass OET speaking, also all sorts of things. So Leon just asked me, could you please explain language choices? So it depends on the type of person you're speaking to. Do you need to speak in a very basic way? Can your language be more complicated? That sort of thing. Should you be showing empathy? So just go back to one of the previous two slides. Oh, I knew I'd do that. Let's go back again. I will share them with you for sure. I can do it backwards. No, I've got to go all the way through them. How much should we get in the final exam? A B grade, it's over 350, the same as writing, out of 500. And that is the two things, they are joined together. So I'm just going back to our there's strategies, right? You're speaking. There we go. Now, other questions before that. In the case of a colonoscopy, isn't it better just to say a medical word than more or less get the gist to the patient rather than explain to them in easy words and make them more aware of the possible drawbacks? Well, Maria, yes, and interesting, in a colonoscopy, colonoscopy, not a colonoscopy, a colonoscopy. Yes, I think, look, it depends on who your patient is. There's someone that sort of, you know, might understand, but definitely use the term, but also explain. And that for sure would be on your card to explain what it is. If we haven't finished our sentence when the 5 minutes up, they will let you finish the sentence. They will let you. Just quickly finish it. Definitely, Suyana, you can look at the role play card. That's what I'm saying. Hold it up. Don't put it down on the desk where you've got to put your head down. Hold it up so you can look at it while you are speaking. Yes, you can fake the information. It's do not worry. It is not a test of your medical knowledge. Say, but I wonder if it does. Yeah. You know, just up to a point, you know, make it sound a little bit normal. For sure. Definitely. Just quickly spin down to the bottom. There we go. Something is okay. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Guys, as I said, there will be, if colonoscopy is part of your explanation, you will be told to explain it, and they will give you the details even of what to say. So you can make it up, you know, put your own words, of course, in that without any issue at all. So that's me for today. I'll be back next Wednesday. Tomorrow morning I have writing for nurses. That's early, well, 10:30 my time, so 7 hours, or 6.5 hours earlier than this today. So hope you can join me, all the nurses. How long we gave to book? Oh, you can book your mini top. Look, as we get close to the exam, you have fewer and fewer choices, but you can book a whole week in advance. So today is Wednesday, so you can book anything until next Wednesday. All right, we have our availability there. So yes, make your plans, and then as long as it's before 24 hours, you can cancel or reorganize your booking. Don't worry at all. So everybody, it's I hope you've learned something. You know, today I think it's very important that you practice, and you know, doing the mini mock test for sure is one wonderful way to practice and really have that shock that's going to make you feel, okay, I know the problem now, and that's what I've got to focus on. There's plenty of things, all those blogs, there are speaking things on YouTube, of course, on your OET student page, everything is explained. So you go along here where it says speaking, click, I think it's that last one, it's very small, whatever it says speaking, click on it, and there is the series of videos. Okay, and there's plenty of other videos online that you can use on YouTube, but you don't want to, the number one thing is practice, basically. Even if you're practicing with yourself, no problem. But our Facebook page, lots of people asked to share, you know, and practice together. Thanks, everybody. Oh, my pleasure. Look, we've got one more before the exam on the 2nd of August. I think it's the 2nd. Yep. So I hope to see you all next week. And it'll be a task for doctors. However, nurses, please join us. They are there for everybody, and the basics are the same. So have a lovely day, morning, afternoon, evening. That's it for me. I need to do some cooking. And so I'm just going to make some very nice biscuits and, would you believe, some apricot jam. So that's my evening activities all lined up. Bye, everybody. See some of you tomorrow.